Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of K-On! Seasons 1, 2, and the movie on Netflix. And I really enjoyed this anime towards the end of it, because when I got into it, at first I didn't know what I kind of thought about it. Not that I outright hated it or anything like that, it's just, okay, I'm not really getting that pull in the beginning. I thought as I was going through this would be a weird one for me to review, being like, okay, it's a pretty good anime, not really that much in my interest because usually I'm more into protagonists and characters that develop more kind of actively and kind of change up and do different kind of things. Now, granted, there is some movement, but this follows more of the rationale of kind of a Dragon Ball kind of character thing with like Goku. Goku, of course, acquires different skills and everything, but basically he stays a static character. He doesn't really change much beyond certain like views on like the world or whatnot, depending upon certain kind of information. He usually stays the same kind of happy-go-lucky Goku, and a lot of the characters in this anime pretty much stay the same, and that's actually not that big of a problem because they're actually pretty much set as they are. They're pretty good people as they are. Like the main high schoolers that we follow, Yui, she's pretty much exactly like Goku, airheaded but really got a heart of gold. Mio, she's kind of more of the brainy kind of one. Well, of the older students, but she's like scared of scary things. Ritsu is of course the wild kind of child, and Mugi is just the very kind of person who happens to be super rich and is able to hook them up with certain things. And then of course we get Azusa, who is brought into the light music club later, and she of course is another kind of brains behind the operation and really into the music. So they do go through some things, and they go through the whole plot, but they basically stay the same, and that's not that big of an issue. I found out as I got through this, because towards the end of it I really enjoyed this. Now, before we really get into it, I did this in a different kind of watching order because the first season's 14 episodes. I'm like, okay, cool. Second season is 27, and it's got some OVAs in there. So what I did was towards the end of the second season, I got close to the last episode, watched all the OVAs, then watched the movie, and then watched the final episode. I'm like, okay, that kind of worked out pretty well because the movie has some overlap with the last episode, but there's certain things in the last episode that you do need to watch to have certain things make sense. So they're a nice kind of companion thing going on. So this follows a group of high school girls pretty much doing cute things. And at first I'm like, okay, I get it. It does that objective fairly well. But as I was getting through, I kind of was like, okay, I really enjoyed this. It's nice to kind of just watch these high school girls just going about their lives and doing normal people things. Granted, they do have worries and problems, but it's kind of a nice, refreshing kind of change of pace where they just are able to worry about exams and then worry about what they're going to do at the next school festival for their playing for the light music club, and just kind of relax and have tea and stuff like that and just be themselves. It's really nice and lighthearted and warm that way, kind of a good slice of life anime. So the premise is we get introduced to the main four and the light music club. Two of them, Mio and Ritsu, want to be in the light music club because they're like, all right, yeah, we want to make a band, but they've only got themselves. Mugi, of course, is like, oh, okay, yeah. They kind of rope her in, so they need a fourth. So they get Yui in, and they pretty much bribe her with snacks and everything. She's like, okay, sure, I'll do it, yeah. And then she was going to quit, but of course they needed that last person. So she's like, all right, fine. And they have to go and get her an instrument because Mio's bass, Ritsu is drums, and Mugi's keyboard. So they're like, all right, let's get you a guitar. Now, the only real problem I had with the dub is specifically because of translation, because Yui was going for like a Gibson, and it was like they translated it to like $250,000 when it was like 250,000 yen or whatnot. I'm like, okay, and somehow they barter it down to like $500. I'm like, what the hell? Now, granted, Mugi was involved because her parents are in the chain of ownership over the store. They don't own that store specifically, but they're like, okay, yeah, we could do that. And of course, that sets them off as they don't do a lot of practicing. I mean, granted, it's showing that mainly them living their lives and then getting their inspiration from their lives to just have their pretty much happy-go-lucky music. I'm like, okay, this will probably be kind of like, we'll have to see how the music works out. But thankfully, because this is an anime about music, they take it very seriously. But yet they balance it out because they're like, okay, these are high school girls. Let's see how this works out. So we get them. They go there. I mean, granted, Yui at one point makes a song about rice. And the thing is, you're reading the lyrics and you're like, okay, this is kind of strange. But you listen to it and it's like, that's not a bad song. That's actually pretty damn good. And I've been having some of the songs just rattling around in my head after watching this. I'm like, okay, cool. So it pretty much then follows a set structure of them figuring out what they need to do for pretty much a school festival and playing the festival. Go over, they get a new group member in Azusa. She wants to. She's very gung ho for practicing, but she kind of learns their ways, and she's actually worried that she's become a slacker. But we see that they still keep making pretty good music and prepare for the next festival. This keeps going until the main four that we've been following are getting ready to graduate in their third year. And, of course, this promotes some tension because Azusa is a year behind them. And she's kind of sad that pretty much the Light Music Club's going to be gone. But, I mean, she's then going to have to carry the torch for him. But they don't immediately drop her ass like anything. They're like, no, we're together, and we're going to keep doing this. And it's really kind of cool because Yui comes up with like, okay, let's have a graduation trip for us and bring Azusa along, and then we're going to do a graduation trip for Azusa when it's her turn next year. It's like, oh, that's really nice. And these girls' bond is so strong that they decide to even go to the same college together, and they study very hard and get them through. And this is kind of important because Yui, one of her character flaws is that she can mainly only focus on one thing at one time. Mainly we see that she got really good at guitar, and then she's like, oh shit, I have to do exams, and she has to switch it, goes into exam mode, really does really well on it, and she completely almost forgets how to play the guitar. I mean, she gets better as the series progresses on that front, but it's an interesting kind of character fault that she's got that she has to work through. And this is where it kind of pumps into, of course, with the graduation trip for the movie, because I was like, okay, let's see how this movie goes. And it follows the same kind of formula. And I'm like, okay, they decide to go to London, and they have a pretty good time. They just see the sights. They actually accidentally get roped into playing one show at a sushi place, and then they get roped into doing a kind of Japanese culture kind of exchange festival, and that's pretty cool. They even get their advisor, Sawaka. She pops up to kind of help them along, and she's another good character. She previously was in the Light Music Club as a student and is now a teacher in their homeroom teacher specifically, and it's kind of cool to see her help them throughout and have them like deal with all this kind of stuff, also trying to force like the weirdest kind of costumes on them possible, and seeing her be affected with how they graduate and everything was just really nice to see, because all of the girls at the high school like made her this kind of card thing, and she's like, wow, this is her first homeroom class, and how well done how well of a job she did with them and the Light Music Club. Hell, the Light Music Club played us a set in the classroom that was actually pretty good, and they played a song for Azusa. They made that as a gift for her as they were graduating. I'm like, that was good. That was good. You're like, shit at the end. But you don't really feel empty at the end of this. You're like, okay, this is a nice, cool, bright, happy world, and these girls are just going off to their next thing. They're like, hey, this isn't goodbye. This is just one phase. They go off to kick some more ass, man. Okay, so I'm like, okay, you could have the problem of like weird pop music about like rice, but you're just like, okay, how are they going to kind of like top this next? Now, granted, I know that there haven't been any other seasons or whatnot, but you usually, when you have a really good ending to a show, you kind of have that kind of, you have like one of two options. You're either in that kind of show hole where you're like, damn it, it sucks that that's gone, or it's like, wow, I kind of feel complete because the series was completed. And I'm like, I felt that more with this because this was just following them through high school, and it ended that, but that's not the end for them. And they just go off and do their stuff. I'm like, yeah, that actually worked pretty well. Because if a piece of entertainment is done pretty well, you don't always need to be like, okay, this is where they went to go and do this stuff. Like, you're like, okay, this was the ending for this part, and it works very well, and then you can just think of what else kind of happened. And I was really glad that I watched this one because I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I just kind of want to see how they worked. And I was like, yeah, animation, really good. You're able to get distinct personalities for the characters. You don't feel like any one character or any one location is just kind of copied out of nowhere. Now, granted, a lot of this stuff goes on in the high school, so yeah, there's going to be some reuse, but it's not like no time or effort was taken into doing this. They did a very good job on it, and you're not like, hey, there's like two people back there that look the exact same except one's got a mustache. No. And then the music. Some of this stuff just gets stuck in your head and you're like, why is this in my head? Because it's a nice, happy kind of pop song that actually has some pretty good riffage in it. And you're like, yeah, that works out pretty well. So, if you're really into like deep stories or whatnot, this really won't be for you. This is more slice of life, just seeing people live their lives in just a regular kind of world. Now, I would say that this would be a really good introductory anime for like anybody, or like to get someone interested or be like, hey, son, what is this anime that you speak of? And they'd be like, how about this? And it's like, it's kind of weird, but I mean, I kind of get it, you know? And it just would be a good one to bond over, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't have any weird kind of strange messages that you have to decipher or anything. It's just something that you can just watch and enjoy and just kind of experience. You don't have to do that much thought or effort into it. It's something that you could even have on in the background and be like, all right. Now the only issue is you'd have that music going and then it starts to get in your head and then you're just like, oh crap. There you go. That's the only kind of downside. Now, if you are into gore, violence, and action, this really isn't for you. So, take with that as you will. This is just like a nice kind of good feel anime that like you can watch at any time, and I would highly recommend pretty much anyone watching it, unless it's not really into your style. I could totally understand if somebody's watching this and being like, okay, I'm kind of bored of this because it kind of recycles or goes through the same kind of motions over for certain things, and I get that. I understand that. It's just that the characters towards the end of it pulled me in more, and seeing what they did with their songs next made that kind of less important for me. When usually that is a pretty big kind of issue and criticism that I have for a lot of different kind of media. And I'm like, okay, interesting that I could see that happen. So those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.